What's up, guys? It's Friday, April 30th, and you're tuning in to 2.5 Hoopers, Jared Cunningham's favorite basketball podcast. I'm here with George Martin, making his return, finally.
What's up, everybody? It's been a while.
How was your long weekend?
Very, very fun. Got to visit some family, did some things that I can't disclose on this podcast, and got my first dose of the COVID vaccine today. So let's hope I didn't get microchipped by the government.
Josh is also out today because of the microchip. Second dose, though.
But he's also dumb for getting Moderna because that one is like known to take you out. Pfizer gang.
He said he was questionable to probable this morning before he got it. And then he texted us at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Doubtful.
And said he can't think. So I don't know what that means. But hey, it's a two-man weave today. We do have a good show for you guys, though. Recap last days of ball. Georgia's halftime is back. It's not just halftime; it's Georgia's halftime. So you know he's going to bring the heat today. And then end it off in honor of the NFL draft. We're going to do a little mock draft for the NBA top 5 for their draft. A lot less interesting, but still should be fun.
There's no Mac Jones in the NBA draft, unfortunately, to make storylines.
Who was the last Mac Jones in the NBA? Was it Porzingis? He went high though.
Yeah, he went 4. Just the thing with Mac Jones, I know we're not a football podcast, it was just him being so high and then the smoke screen of nobody else taking him after the Niners was kind of funny. So,
well, I know the 3 listeners we have that I know for sure, Jay Gardhouse, Danny Stipp, and Josh Nowkowski, they care a little bit about football. So give your overall thoughts on just the QBs. Give me a little summary.
So, yeah, Trevor Lawrence was like the surefire pick. Many think he's going to be a generational talent. He was going number 1 no matter what. Zach Wilson has a cannon of an arm. The problem with him, he threw like the least amount of passes from a
very hot family.
And he went to BYU, who doesn't play many notable teams. But anyways, Trey Lance, well-rounded guy, went to North Dakota State, who was known to be a very good QB college, I should say, because Carson Wentz came from there. Before his injuries, he was looking like an MVP. And then the next quarterback taken, I believe, was Justin Fields, probably the steal of the draft. I hate to say that because he went to the Bears, the rival of us, and Costa's favorite team. I wanted them to take Mac Jones, and they didn't. And then Mac Jones, like I said, went 15 to the Pats, which will be very interesting.
He's destined for greatness.
Bill's gonna have no way they draft a bust. Like the first quarterback they've taken like in years.
Since Drew Bledsoe.
No way he's a bust. No way Bill goes out like that. So it was very interesting, very fun. I enjoyed it. Day 2 tomorrow.
Big fan of Trey Lance. Back to basketball. Remember, if you like what you hear, make sure to give us a follow at THHoopers, Instagram and Twitter. Drop a comment. Thanks for showing us support. Yada, yada, yada. We're here to recap because I know a lot of you guys probably didn't watch any basketball, especially Thursday, because of the NBA draft or the NFL draft. And I know Josh didn't because he has been out cold. So if Josh is listening, we'll catch you up. All right, so Wednesday, April 28th, Magic beat the Cavs 109-104. Sixers crushed the Hawks 127-83. Wizards beat the Lakers 116-107. Russell Westbrook is on a goddamn tear. Celtics beat the Hornies 120-111. Knicks beat the Bulls 113-94. And Jazz murdered the Kings with no regard for human life. Did you see the score of this one? Am I going to surprise you?
It was a 49-point win, I believe.
154-105. And I believe that's not even
not the biggest win margin this season. Clips lost by 53 to the Mavs earlier this year.
Well, then also, like I just mentioned, Sixers crushed the Hawks. No Trae Young, so it doesn't really matter. But that's 44 if I carried the 3. So yeah, 44. Not a lot of great games Wednesday, but we had a few pretty good ones. We're gonna start here. Heat beat the Spurs 116-111. This was my look ahead. Pretty by the numbers game. DeJounte Murray played really good in the 4th, and he secured that triple-double, 22, 10, and 11. And then Jimmy Butler led the charge in the 4th quarter. Miami did lose the 4th quarter, but they won the second half overall. And they scored 34 in the 4th quarter, 20 in the last 6 minutes. So I know we harp a lot on the Miami Heat offense. Can it catch up to their stellar defense when we're hitting playoff time? And this was a game without, I'll just read it to you, Victor Oladipo or Tyler Hero. So how much do you really put in this game? We'll start with the Heat here.
Well, I mean, yeah, for the Heat side, I'm going to put a lot more into this because they were without 2 of their better guards. And yes, especially those late 4th quarter stretches, in a lot of their games, they go on droughts. They can't find anything. They can't hit, side of a barn practically, and there will be like a 6-minute stretch. I think that happened in the Minnesota game, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, they can defend, but they can't put anything in the basket, and sometimes it just gets too much. But really good game overall. One note: Dwayne Dedmon, 60 minutes off the bench, 18 points on 7 of 8. I know you and I actually wanted the Lakers to sign him in the beginning of free agency last year, but he's been very nice for him. Can stretch the floor, can defend really well. He fits well into the Heat culture. I know we love bringing it up, but he's been great for him. Basically a free addition, and he can fit into that closing lineup if need be. I mean, beside Bam, I think they've had it a little bit, not too much, but
he hasn't closed for them yet, but they do fit decent next to each other. But he's playing backup center for the most part right now.
Yeah, but he could fit into a like a closing lineup, or if they like a second unit and they need to get stops, he can do anything out there. So if you have anything else to add, I'm gonna want to ask you a question about the Spurs. But do you have anything or?
I got a little bit to add. Yeah, just I'm seeing it right now. Bam 32 minutes, Dwayne 16 minutes. So they were running 2 centers and they didn't really play together very much. I know a few games ago they played a little bit together. It looks like Spo's kind of shown it's Bam or it's Dwayne, and Dwayne's playing really good for them. I'm sad Josh isn't on this podcast because he's the biggest Dwayne Dedmon fan. Just me and him have a little inside joke since we were like 14.
Yeah.
Just Dwayne to Edmond. But he's playing really well. 7 for 8 in this one, 18 and 9. And then Dragic, 18 off the bench, 7 assists. Iggy, 24-minute goose egg, but Iggy does a little bit more as far as intangibles go. But yeah, what I noticed here, they finished the game with Nunn and Dragic in the lineup, and then Jimmy, Bam, and I believe it was either Duncan. Might have been Duncan, but
they're fine. They've closed a lot with Duncan. They prefer him more. But in terms of Miami's bench, I actually think Dragic might need to be their most consistent guy, because I know they have Hero off that, but
last year Dragic he started, right?
He
in the bubble.
He did.
Yeah,
they're
going to need him to play like that off the bench.
Exactly.
Or they're going to need the thing with Miami that I've kind of come to terms with is they need either Victor Oladipo or Tyler Hero to have the Tyler Hero role that he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they might have realized they're asking a little bit too much of Tyler Hero to recreate that. So they just need Tyler Hero in the form of either Victor Oladipo or Tyler Hero just to be that spark. And that wild card on offense.
Yeah, definitely.
You had a question about the Spurs. I'll set the table here. Lonnie Walker 18. DeMar DeRozan 20, and like I said, DeJounte Murray triple-double.
This actually doesn't have anything to do with like they're playing much. This has to do with more of like an outlook. So if I'm not mistaken, DeMar and Rudy Gay, and I think Patty Mills are soon to be free agents. I don't know if it's this. They're soon to be, and I don't know if they're going to retain all of them or if that's the direction they want to move. So do you think it was wrong for him to not try and capitalize? Because I know some people were inquiring about DeMar, Rudy Gay. You could get a lot of value. A contender would love to have a player like Rudy Gay. And they're not going anywhere. They're, playing team. This is kind of their ceiling for now until, they can got other guys like DeJounte to be stars. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, so I know DeMar has a player option, and I'm thinking he'll probably pick it up. He seems to like San Antonio, him pop up a good relationship. I think Rudy Gay's probably gone. I feel like he's going to want to try and win a title. Because he came here to win a title when I think he's been here since Kawhi was there, and he's been a good sport. And it's just funny to think because like 5 years ago, who are the 2 most unspurs like players, Rudy Gay and DeMar DeRozan, and they're giving him good minutes. But I think DeMar DeRozan will be back. As far as capitalizing, I don't know how much they really could have gotten for Rudy Gay or Patty Mills without compromising the season, because it's still Greg Popovich coaching in the Spurs. You don't want to miss the playoffs. So that's why look what they're going to value veterans. They're not going to go into a full tank as shown by the Kawhi Leonard trade. Getting DeMar DeRozan back, not really freeing up too much money, just getting the best players like right now for Kawhi Leonard. So I think as far as that goes, I don't see them really like committing to a tank and like selling high and stuff. But you have to remember, I think at the trade deadline they were the 7th or 8th seed, so they weren't going to break what was fixed.
Yeah, I mean that's all I wanted to ask. I wasn't expecting them to like completely overhaul their lineup, but I just felt like if they could have got some assets that could work better towards the future, because I think with Pop there, as long as he's there, they're always going to be in contention for a play-in or playoff spot. So I thought it might have been smart to try and capitalize on these guys for a little bit younger talent and or assets, because they do very well in the draft. I mean, they've had.
That's what I was going to bring up. They could keep having these mid-first rounders, and they're almost as valuable as a top 5 pick in the hands of like the Orlando Magic. Like they will find these
So you
players.
think it's fine to, potentially let some of these guys go, but if they have a mid pick and they still hit on it, it's fine in replacing those guys.
Well, yeah. So the lowest that San Antonio is going to be with Greg Popovich is no man's land, is what I call it, which is
Basically,
essentially now fighting for a playoff spot. It used to be like the 9-10 seed, which is now fighting for a play-in spot. So I think that's the lowest they'll really be.
Okay.
I don't think they'll ever commit to a tank just because of RC Buford and Pop.
Good stuff.
Next game is Blazers beating the Grizzlies 130-109. I know Josh brought up last podcast that the Blazers were 9-20 against teams over 500. Grizzlies were 2 games over 500 but when this game was played, and Portland came out and just punched him right in the mouth. I don't know if I mentioned 130-109. Portland won the first quarter 38-23 and just kind of cruised from there. Oh, well, they also won the second quarter 36-23. So they were out on a roll. CJ McCollum 26 in this one. And Jonas Valanciunas, as always, a double-double. Double-double. Everyone was kind of healthy in this one that I can see. So just what were your takeaways from this one? Jaren Jackson, another game back, 24 minutes, 13 points. Struggled again shooting. But, how much do you really put into this game?
So there's a little bit of a silver lining here because it's actually a pretty big game. This gave the Blazers 2.5 games up on the Grizzlies for the 7-8. And that's important because if they stay at 7, they only got to beat them once. Kind of like exactly how it was last year in the play-in, funny enough. So very, very big win here. They were on fire. I think they had almost 70 at halftime, and the Grizz had 46. They were up. Like the game was practically over at halftime. So
74-46 halftime lead.
Yeah, the Grizz won the third quarter by like 9, but even then, it was basically over at halftime. They came out firing well. They shot almost 50% from the field. But again, impressive win. I don't know what this does for them overall because they're still in the play, and I don't see them moving up and out of it. But it was good for them to kind of get a game where it's like a must win for them because, like you said, against over 500 teams, they haven't been good a lot this year.
Yeah, after Anthony Simons went off and hit, I believe it was 9 for 10 threes the game before this.
Yeah.
They gave him 21 minutes and he got 8 points, 3 for 8 from the field. So it's looking like it was a fluke, but they're trying to find anything on that bench that they can get besides Carmelo Anthony.
Scoring off the bench is limited with only Melo there, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then Rocco, Goose Egg. There's just a lot of question marks with this Blazers team. And these teams are kind of polar opposites because they one team's defensive oriented, offensive, and also like this is the Blazers squad. Like they're trying to win right now. Memphis, they played really impressively this season just because they're, like you said, the 8th seed now. They missed Jaren Jackson half the year, and they're a very, very young team. So they're playing with house money until probably 2023. Until that jaw extension, they're just playing with house money, and they're a fun team to watch. Shout out JJ Butter, big Grizzlies fan. Anything else to add from this one?
No, not really. It was just more of a takeaway of seeding, and like you said, the Grizzlies, and they have a good reputation from the front office and hitting on picks. So yeah, basically, like you said, house money. They're overachieving, in my opinion, because they were missing their second best player the whole year. So yeah, it's been fun to watch them.
I'm wondering how much they'll pay Valanciunas. I don't think he's a free agent this year, but he's big into that culture they built. It seems like just by the context of how they've like the news surrounding him, it feels like he'll have one more year after this under contract, and they'll figure what they have to do. Or maybe he's free agent this year. I
give him a few years. The problem is though, I don't know how much leverage they have because of teams like the Pelicans giving Steven Adams 3 for 50 or something. I think like 3 for 45, 15 mil isn't that bad because I think the cap is going to spike in a few years. So 15 mil isn't that much for it. I think that's like 3 for 45, maybe an opt out after 2, because who knows? Maybe they find another gem in the draft at the 5, because I think Xavier Tillman plays some 5 too, who they like.
Yeah. Moving on, Nuggets beat the Pelicans 114-112. They actually finally closed the game well. I don't know if you got this one, but 11-4 run in the final minute. Didn't win, but it was nice seeing them actually try and get a W. Jokic put on a show and also got a block on Zion that the refs later reviewed the film and they were like, it's a foul. But oh my gosh, what are you on? Are you on an illegal website?
My ESPN broke. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll repeat that then. Jokic put on a show, and then also he got the game-winning block on Zion, and the 2-minute report came out on Thursday, and they were like, it's a foul, but you can't do anything. So full transparency, but Nuggets still get the win. I just want to know what you took from this one. Jokic 32 is 7 and 8, 12 for 20. And then Porter Jr. again shooting over 50% and had 28 points. And then Campazzo, 19 and 10. Not a lot of bench scoring, but they've been kind of banged up. No Will Barton, no Monte Morris, 2 good bench contributors. What did you see from this one?
Yeah, Denver's been really good in the clutch. I know you said they went on an 11-4 run, but they were able to eke out a win, although a lot of controversy there. But nonetheless, we're going to have to take that as a win. They've been very, very good since Murray has gone out, which didn't seem like that was going to happen. Campazzo's been great. I mean, he's basically like just the 5'7" version of Jokic, not as dominating, obviously, but he does
say 5'7".
What is he, like 5'9"?
He has to be at least 5'9". No way in hell that boy's 5'7".
He looks like a janitor out there, but 19, 10, and 6 for him. I mean, 36 minutes. I mean, this dude's kind of a machine out there for what they're getting. And did they have Austin? They did have Austin. Wow, goose egg from him. That doesn't seem like that's possible from Austin Rivers, but they've seen out of him. They have him for the rest of the year. So I feel like their creation might be okay. They're not going to have like the firepower on offense from what Murray provided, especially those game 6, game 7s of the last year's playoffs. But in terms of their offensive production and the creation side, I think they're going to end up being okay. But like you said, you're going to need a lot from MPJ, I guess Campazzo too. And I just don't know consistency-wise how much they can rely on them. But it could end up getting them out of the first round. And then depending on matchups.
Who knows what happens? Yeah.
They the Clippers again. I mean,
Mike Malone finally has an excuse to play his man crush, PJ Dozier. He played 32 in this one. He's kind of like the anti-Alfred Payton, where he plays a lot of minutes and his stats aren't that good, but you watch the game and you're like, yeah, he's making a pretty big impact. He probably will go back to the bench once Will Barton is back. And him and Monte Morris will run that second unit with Paul Millsap and Austin Rivers. Yeah, I mean, all right, so are you all in on starting Campazzo? Because I know we've kind of agreed that we feel like just let Jokic run complete point guard and just get secondary creators around him and maybe start like Dozier and Will Barton.
I would probably start Will Barton once he comes back because of the defense too.
Over Campazzo or over Dozier?
I feel like Campazzo, what he does would be more valuable off the bench because they need scoring there, and he can definitely help set guys up. But it doesn't hurt to have him in the starting lineup either because it's another guy. He has great IQ, he's throwing tons of no-look passes to open up guys like Barton and MPJ who need to be very consistent. So I don't think you can go wrong here. Basically going to come down to matchups and what the game plan is. But yeah, you can start him. You can have him come off the bench. He's going to be able to do it all for them on the offensive side, which I think is great.
Yeah, I gave my apology last podcast to MPJ. My exact words were, I don't think a team whose main source of scoring is Michael Porter Jr. will make it out of the first round. And I trust them. I trust the team to make it out of the first round, but it depends on the matchup wise.
I mean, look, they could draw a hobbled Lakers team or Portland or Dallas, and they could be all three of those teams. So who knows?
Yeah. So, moving on. Final game of Wednesday, April 28th. Suns beat the Clippers 109-101. All teams were healthy except for that guy Kawhi Leonard. He took the night off. So I don't know how much you're gonna put into this, but I'll go over it anyways. Your boy Terrence Mann had 12 and 6. But the main guy, Paul George, had 25 and 10. Didn't look the most energetic. He didn't really get up for this game as much as like
PG ain't getting up for the big matchups.
Okay.
No PG slander. I'm sorry.
Every starter did score in double figures though for the Clippers. And then over on Phoenix's side, Chris Paul. God, Josh brought this. Me and Josh watched it together. The entire game. Booker is always great first half and not good second half, and CP is not good first half and he picks up in the second half.
Perfect
and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think that's really the recipe for this team because Booker kind of has that spark that gets you going, and then CP3 is kind of the one you want finishing because like LeBron, he can either score or he can set up a teammate. Exactly. And these teammates really make use of these open shots. Mikal Bridges, 2 for 5 from 3. Torrey Craig, 2 for 4 from 3. And Cameron Payne, 3 for 6 from 3. So they got shooters here. And then, Frank Kaminsky got the bench 13 points. What say you about this game? Because Torrey Craig started at power forward for them without Jay Crowder or Dario Saric. So,
well, this game, I need 7 games of this. Hopefully the first round matchup. I know we're going to get into that a little bit later, but I mean, these teams don't like each other. Plain and simple. Like PG's talking, Chris Paul's talking, Chris Paul and Rondo have beef. I mean, all around, this is all these games this year between these two have had like playoff implications and playoff type atmospheres. But yeah, I actually liked what you said. It's kind of like a perfect marriage thing. D-Book comes out, lights out in the first half, then kind of struggles late game, which kind of ties into his inexperience of playing in big type games.
And I before I let you, I want to make this clear. Booker's still clutch, but second halves in general, he does sort of fall apart because I believe he was 8 for 10 in the first half, and he finished, I believe, what he finished as 9 for 19.
And he does have inexperience in those like playoff atmosphere type games. I know the 8-0 run in the bubble. Don't know how much stock you put into that, but I'm not going to Mickey Mouse 8-0. But yeah, it's Chris Paul has been everything they've wanted and more. I mean, they could possibly end up being the 1 seed. He raises the ceiling and floor of this team. So they're on all cylinders. They've been healthy a lot this season. They have wings. They have a nice big. They have the guards to do it. I mean, they're a complete team out west.
Yeah. So, well, I'll ask you a question. Does Dame Lillard's MVP count?
The Mickey Mouse MVP?
Then it's not a real 8-0. It's a Mickey Mouse 8-0.
I mean, have you? I don't know if this is true, but I have a photo. I don't know if this is an actual photo or if it's Photoshop. It's Damian Lillard.
He's not holding. That's Photoshop, George.
It's Photoshop?
He's not holding a Mickey Mouse trophy. What's wrong with you? What is Miska Muska inscribed on the Lakers championship trophy? You think it was that themed?
I actually fell for it. Then I thought it was real.
God.
I thought it was a Mickey.
That's gonna be the thumbnail of today's video. that's okay.
You got your thumbnail, baby.
I forgot my train of thought.
Let's just move on to Thursday's games.
Well, Mikal Bridges, I'll get to my most underrated player. He's my second most underrated player. He plays 40 a night for this team, and he gives them excellent defense. And maybe it looked like Paul George didn't get up for this one because Mikal Bridges was on him, and he was just playing good D. And then also, it hit the 5-minute mark, and I was like, okay, Josh, let's do the ratio of jump shots to drives for the Clippers. And it was even, but it was 2-2. Like, they did not get a lot of shots. Like, it was mostly turnovers, and it was just they didn't settle for jump shots. They just didn't execute well down the stretch. And I don't know if that's a Kawhi thing or if there's a different reason for that. All right, getting to Thursday. Mickey Mouse recap because the NFL draft. Mavs beat the Pistons 115-105 without Luka, thanks to who do you think scored 42 points for the Mavs without Luka?
Like Tim Hardaway?
Tim Hardaway Jr. 42 piece against the Pistons. Pelicans beat the Thunder 109-95. Nuggets sweep the weekend, beating the Raps 121-111. And now on to some fun games. We'll make this one a little quickie just because there's not too much to add here, but we do need to talk about it. Nets beat the Pacers 130-113. KD just showed up, dropped 42 on 16 for 24.
Got back on Twitter right after.
And then got back on Twitter, started tweeting. When he said, a few weeks ago, when he was like, winning championships that isn't like the end all be all for me right now. Like, he's literally screwing around. Like he's just attending some games, not playing, comes off, I'm going to just score a light 40, go back on Twitter, join the spaces, getting some hoops talk, some music talk. I mean, he's loving life, it seems. I mean, he doesn't care really. He doesn't have. He's making money from his businesses. He's showing up dripped out of his mind to games,
podcasts and all that.
Yeah, just saying stuff to get the media riled up. He's having a good time. One thing I also want to mention in this game, Elise Johnson, Nets big man off the bench, 20 and 21.
Oh my God, these dudes are stacked. They have everything.
Yeah, this is the deepest team in the league. They were missing.
To be fair,
they're missing DeAndre Jordan, Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton, James Harden, Kyrie Irving.
To be fair, it's kind of easy to grab rebounds when Miles Turner and Sabonis aren't playing. But 20 and 20 is still impressive no matter what. So I'm not gonna discredit it. But just some talking points I wanted to get in on this game. I know I was kind of doubting them with the 7 games and how you need continuity. I don't know. I mean, if KD's doing this, where he can just come in and drop 40 points like no biggie, I mean, do we have to be worried? Harden's easy.
They're not going to have an issue, especially because they're going to get the 1 seed now until the conference finals, and then we can start having a discussion. But I don't want to hear anything in the media saying, the New York Knicks might take them to 7. No. No, man, that's not how it's going to work. If they get the first seed, they will not have any issues. They might lose a game or two, but they will not have any issues till the conference finals when they play either the Bucks or the Sixers. Like, it's a 3-man race.
And even then,
they're atop my list.
I'm still probably confident in them winning. They're my finals pick. I would probably take them over the Bucks. The Sixers do give me worries with continuity issues, but I mean, like Doc Rivers, I don't know. Is Embiid going to be healthy? Is Embiid going to be, so I said I had issues with the 7 games thing, and I know Josh said he didn't. And I might have to agree with Josh here, because if it's going to be like this, there's really no stopping them.
So are you worried at all, just because of their injury history, that it will still happen in the playoffs?
Yeah, no, I mean, especially with those soft tissues. I know, like you said last podcast.
Oh my God, the doctor's on.
But I'm not here to say every injury is major, so I'm back saying it. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried, especially because with those injuries, they came relatively quick, after returning, and a lot of them had to do with large minutes and load, which that's the playoffs, especially when rotations shrink. But I'm gonna believe that now the Nets are gonna be like, okay, we're gonna be cautious. We're gonna do what we need to do to keep them on the court. I'm not as worried, but yes, it's playoffs. There's always gonna be injuries, so there's always gonna be a worry there.
Yeah, you heard it here first. You always take big loads in the playoffs. George said that. Last thing I want to add here. Jeff Green is my most underrated player in the NBA. This dude's insane.
Contract.
Every single game too. There's just a poster dunk. I don't know if you watched this one. He just yammed it. Every single game there's a poster. I don't understand how he keeps doing it. I don't know how old he is.
He's like 34, I think.
Oh my God, 14, 7, and 5 in this one. And then last point. Karis LeVert, first game against Brooklyn, 36 points on 14-24. So good for Karis LeVert. Pacers are banged up. Miles Turner hurting pretty good.
It's a
while. That, like you said, there, Malcolm Brogdon must have went out this game too. 12 minutes, 1 point. So he probably went out this one. Sabonis didn't play at all. So,
we don't have to worry about them falling out of the plane because they're 3 up on the Bulls and Levine's still out. They might shut him down. So it's been rough for him because we thought fully healthy that they could have been a problem, especially with all those wings that they had. So it's just kind of sad to see. But with LeVert and TJ Warren coming back next season, who knows? Yeah,
and every year in the East is a crapshoot. So maybe they'll get a 4 seed next year. Who really knows? Moving on, Rockets beat the Bucks 143-136. Giannis went out in this one early. I don't know what the injury was exactly.
Oh, wow. Played 1 minute.
Yeah, he had 1 minute. But yeah, 1 minute. But oh wow, Bryn Forbes 30 points. That's not what I want to harp on though. Houston shooting guard, lefty, gets fined for going to a strip club and drops 50. Who am I talking about?
Who needs James Harden when you have his replacement and you got him for free? That second-round pick is top 55 protected. It's not even a pick.
It's top 55 protected.
55. It's not even a pick. They gave him up for absolutely nothing.
So Kevin Porter Jr., 50 points in 41 minutes, 11 assists too.
Good shooting too.
And it was coming off, I don't know if his worst game of the year.
He had like 9 points or something.
He had 9 points, went to a booty club and got fined. And young players don't really bounce back like this. They don't normally. This dude's built different. And like his assignment was Drew Holiday. Like he was cooking too. And I haven't seen anyone.
And this feeds into my worry about the Bucks. You gave up 143 to a team that has 16 wins. 143. And I get it. The guy had 50, but Kelly Olynyk had 24 on 9 of 17.
Kelly Olynyk 24 and 13. This dude needs to be re-signed. I know me and Josh talked about drafting.
He's playing like Dirk. Huh? He's playing like Dirk for them, basically.
He literally is. And he looks like Dirk sometimes too. Christian with 31 in this one too. I mean, Houston's going to have a nice young core.
And I believe they're pretty cap solid too. Like the whole point of all their trades was to completely get guys off the market, to completely free up. They got picks. I didn't have a lot of faith, but I mean, who's their starting point guard? Is Aaron Brooks still in the league?
Armoni Brooks.
Ooh, that's scary.
But Kevin Porter Jr. played point guard this game and he had 11 assists. I saw on as I was doing research for this game. I watched most of the game IRL, and then I watched the highlights again for the podcast. Top comment: the Michael Porter Jr. The Kevin Porter Jr. trade will go down as very similar to the Kyle Lowry, the Kyle Korver trade, where they traded him for a copier.
Fax machine, yeah.
So, I mean, I was on board. I was like, you got to get him out of there. He had that whole scene. At this point, like, I know hindsight's 2020, like I said, but like, should have just sucked it up, given him the whole locker room. Like at this point, like, because they had that thing and they had to trade him, and I was like, it made sense, but you should have just made amends. This guy's an absolute bucket. But yeah, our boy Bryn Forbes, 30 points off the bench. I know you said you're worried about the Bucks, but they didn't have Giannis this game. So they're playing a lot of PJ Tucker. And he hasn't been how they wanted him to be this year.
I know that was my hoop doctor request to trade for PJ Tucker and put Yanni at the 5. Obviously, you couldn't put him at the 5 because he played a minute, but I mean, it's still a little bit concerning. Like I get you're without your reigning D-boy, but I mean, look what the Lakers had been doing without AD or LeBron. And I know, I guess you can compare it, but
they've lost 4 or 5 without LeBron.
I mean, on the defensive side, I just would like to see some more effort. And not giving up almost 150 to a team with 16 wins, but whatever, that's not the fact.
It seems like you're alluding to that the coach is the problem, or is this a hot take that you don't like the Bucks head coach?
Are you kidding me? I know you set that up on purpose. I've been asking for that dude to be fired for 2 years, but we'll move on.
Oh yeah, moving on. Last game of Thursday. Timberwolves beat the Warriors 126-114. Steph Curry at 37. He was a joy to watch, but Minnesota won the fourth quarter by 14 points, and Ricky Rubio did his best Steph Curry impression, and he had 26 points on 5 for 8 shooting from 3. Now, Curry did go 6 or 17 from 3, so he did a little better than an impression, but this was word on the street, and watching this game also, the scapegoat for this one is Mikal Mulder. He was just missing.
Mulder,
yeah. He was missing every single three-pointer. Like, they were wide open, just bricks, and that's not going to work. I mean, Wiggins had a good game against his old team, but, I mean, other than that, it was the Curry show. And then D'Lo, again, didn't shoot well, but he had 7 and 8. So,
yes,
I mean,
8 assists.
8 assists. Karl Towns, 22 and 11. And then Anthony Edwards had 18 in the fourth quarter. He was just cooking. He came to play in the fourth quarter. So I gave you a lot of things to springboard off of. Where do you want to take this one?
I mean, just looking at the Warriors bench, they went 8 deep. You or Josh said that's a normality for them. But I mean, looking at the 3 guys, they're all G leaguers: Jordan Poole, Mulder, and Juan Toscano Anderson. I love JTA's play, but he is young. He's a little bit inexperienced. He's just basically coming from the G League. And I look at this team and where they are. I know they have Steph, and Steph can be Steph in a play-in, but they'd need to win 2 games, and the other team would only have to win 1. They're not consistent enough to win 2 games, in my opinion, because a lot of the times, even with great Steph performances, they still...
But isn't Steph the best guy you want in a play-in game?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at are you expecting guys like Wiggins and Oubre and Bazemore to step up 2 games in a row? That's the thing. I mean, Steph could get you 45, and he's done that before in losses. Like, look at Dallas. I mean, that's just like what I've been thinking about them, but I don't know. And even when they do get into the playoffs, unless they draw like the Jazz, who people think they could beat, I don't know.
Do you even think they could beat the Jazz? That's a 5 game.
That Steph goes nuclear for 1 game, and that's about it. I know they could bring Gobert out on the perimeter.
I don't give a rat's ass what you can do to Gobert.
You can't do that. You can't do that for 4 straight wins. Like with this team and this bench, they're too inconsistent to do that.
And also, you can't bring Gobert out. What, you're gonna put Kevin Looney on the 3-point line? We're not gonna even humor that.
You're gonna go small with Draymond, and all they're gonna do.
We're not gonna humor that.
Okay.
We are gonna humor giving the Warriors a bit of a pass for just this season. This game in general, they're missing Kelly Oubre Jr., Eric Pascal, and James Wiseman. 3 guys that are starters for them for the most part. Pascal, not really, but he would have replaced one of those G leaguers that are coming off the bench. More likely a Mulder, who, like I said, was really bricking this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any thoughts on Minnesota just as a whole? Because they're 10-6 with D'Lo, Ant, and Karl Anthony Towns.
I've loved it.
Do you think this is just a case of because us as Lakers fans, we saw we would win 12 games the first 72 games, and then we'd end up with 19 wins at the end of the year, going 7-10. So is this kind of just like a thing where it's the last year or the last part of the year? Obviously, it's too little, too late, but just they're getting a lot of breaks. Or do you go, hey, Warriors are in a must-win every single game. They gave it their all. Curry at 37, they still pull it out. Where do you fall?
No, I'm going to go on the T-Wolf side. I think they're a little bit eager and excited, because they had, before D'Lo came back from his injury, only about 5 games with him in town. So I think finally we're getting to see that experiment a little bit. And off the bench, it's been productive. It's been working. And they're able to counterbalance, the amount of volume guys like Towns and Edwards are commanding with the shots. And D'Lo can get his off the bench. And I think it's been as solid as you could ask, 10-6 with this core. And, they don't have like an incredible bench and rotation. So for what they've been doing, it's been nice. And it's something that they can leapfrog into next season. If they do end up having a high pick, they could trade. They have flexibility. I don't know about their cap room percents, but they don't have to worry because you're not signing any big free agents in Minnesota.
You've already paid D'Lo and Cat and Edwards is at least 3 years out from his extension.
Yeah. So but you have flexibility with assets to trade besides this pick this year. But after that, you're pretty set. So something to
I believe
look forward to.
Only homies under contract are D'Lo and Cat, like I mentioned. Then Malik Beasley, they give a contract this offseason too.
And they could also trade Beasley. He's on an okay deal, but like 3-and-D guy. Some contenders with cap space could looking to take him. Maybe like the Knicks. Actually, they have enough guards. I'd like to make a system like that, but they have enough guards. But yeah, it's something to look forward to going into next year.
All right, so that's the recap. Short and sweet as always, 36 minutes. So now it's time for the halftime report. I know everyone missed it, George. So I'm ready to get groovy, and you tell me what you have for me to answer.
So wait, what team did we just talk about? Like right before this?
Let's see. Oh, the Rockets?
No. Like the team we just talked about. Like
the Warriors.
No, the other team.
The Timberwolves.
Speaking of Minnesota, they swept the home games against Utah, which actually ended up jeopardizing Utah's chances of hanging on to the number 1 seed. They're currently a game up on the Suns. So the T-Wolves swept the whole season series 3-0 against the Jazz. And I looked into the standings right before this. It's a pretty tight race between the top 4 teams in the West. You have the Jazz, the Suns, the Clippers, and the Nuggets. Jazz are up a game on the Suns.
Where are the Lakers?
5th, unfortunately.
Way back from 4th.
This isn't actually Lakers talk. I'm not going to be Homer here, but Clippers and Nuggets are a half game apart for the 3 and 4 seed. So I wanted to ask you where you think everyone ends up when the season ends.
So I have my prediction, and you did a pretty good job explaining where everyone is. Goes Utah, then Phoenix is a game back from them. Clippers are 2 games back from Phoenix, and then Denver is half a game back from the Clippers. So my overall guess is going to be only a swap between the Suns and the Jazz. My reasoning is Jazz are a few games back from getting Donovan Mitchell back, and they're only 1 game ahead. So I have them falling back. Phoenix has been healthy all year, which is interesting because their best player is 36 years old, but Chris Paul's been an Iron Man ever since that hammy injury. He's been an Iron Man.
I think he went plant-based, so maybe that's the move.
What quarterback's plant-based in the draft? I think it was Fields.
I think Kamara's also plant-based.
Well, get me on that diet. I want to like Alvin Kamara. But yeah, so I have the top 4 going: Suns, Utah Jazz, Clips, and Nuggets. The reason I have the Clips staying ahead of the Nuggets is the strength of schedule. The Nuggets play a lot of playoff teams in the month of May, just to name a few. And these aren't just any regular playoff teams. These are top seeded. It's the Clippers, which is a big game, obviously. Then Utah, the Knicks, Lakers in 4 days. So I don't think Bron will be back, but maybe Lakers are hungry. Maybe they
could be back, and
maybe they eke one out if they're just hungry enough. I don't think so, but okay. I think Nuggets take that one. Yeah, Utah, Brooklyn, and then Charlotte, who will be desperate to see where they're going to fall in the play-in spot.
LaMelo could be back too by then.
Minnesota's been on a tear. Detroit, they're going to win that one, and then Portland, who's going to be that's the last game of the season. They will be desperate to try and get that one. So they're playing a lot of desperate teams, a lot of good teams, and the Clippers overall have a pretty easy schedule. So do you agree with me there?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm hoping the Clippers take that 3rd seed too, because Lakers are trying to keep that 5th seed. I do not want to see the Clippers in the first round, especially since they've been peaking and playing well. But with that, going to take you to the Lakers, who, like you alluded to earlier, for their last 5 games. And a stat I saw really stuck out at me and concerned me. The Lakers are currently, I shouldn't say currently, they're 30th in offensive rating. Without LeBron, he's missed about 20 games ever since Solomon Hill decided to nosedive into his ankle. So what I want to ask you here is they've looked really bad on offense, and it hasn't even just been like a creation standpoint. They just can't hit anything. And what I want to ask you is, with there only being about 10 games left for the Lakers, do you have concerns about like the continuity and their like on-court chemistry on the offensive end? Because defense, they've been spectacular all year, but they really need to get better on offense if they want to go, if they want to win it all and repeat again. So I want to know what your general expectation is on how they're going to look once he's back.
We'll see. First point, LeBron has not played with Andre Drummond yet, and I don't think he'll like stunt anything. But that is something to note that he hasn't played with what's looking like their starting center this year.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I don't think, as you alluded to, it's a creation problem because Dennis Schroeder's been playing really well. Even when he doesn't shoot well, he normally packs in the assists. And I know you watch almost every single Laker game. The Lakers are getting open shots.
Exactly.
And they're just not making them. And I would be concerned if I didn't witness my favorite team stink it up, and I think they were 27th percentile or 27th out of 30 in three-point percentage last year. And then playoffs happened, and they were the ultimate 3-and-D team. So I think it's just I need to be proven wrong before I say Lakers can't shoot, because they have capable shooters. They picked up Ben McLemore, KCP, LeBron just fixes almost everything. So I do think there's a reason. It's LeBron's. Dennis Schroeder doesn't run the offense as well as LeBron does, but Dennis Schroeder being the one to run the offense isn't the reason they're 30th in the league. That's just them missing shots.
And like you said, it was literally the same questions last season. Like, are they going to be able to shoot? Because a lot of times they couldn't even shoot over 30% from 3, and we're almost winning games. And it was the same. We're just going to leave them open, and they were left open pretty early and often, and just hitting everything from 3. So, like you said, it's kind of a wait and see thing. LeBron does fix a lot of holes on these offense, but
Can you give me a quick recap of how AD's been since he came back? Just some quick. I know we haven't talked about it too much because we have a lot more to cover.
Been moving well, has looked like he's back in shape, but shots are not falling, like at all. And that will fix itself as he gets more game reps. The biggest thing with him is just getting back to what he was, pre-injury, and just making sure he's in shape, and just, because he said that him and Drummond are still figuring a lot of things out and that he envisions it's going to work well. So it's just a lot more than him just trying to make shots. He's manning a lot right now because with the team struggling, he kind of came back, and now they're like, okay, one of our stars are back. Let's lean on him a bit. And he might not be ready for that because he's been hurt for 30 games, but he's looked a little bit better than I expected. The shot's not falling as much as I wanted, but shape-wise, he's looked good.
Bet. What's next?
A little bit of controversy, especially with, on Twitter. The Twitter trolls were going wild when ESPN dropped this post. Dr. J explained that he does not have LeBron on his 2 all-time NBA teams. So, like, first team, second team of 5 players on each.
Like, point guard through center, he doesn't have him on, like, his first 2 teams.
Exactly. And
I think all NBA.
And the reason was he's the guy who led the charge of super teams. Quote from Dr. J. I'm going to read to you his 2 teams, and I'll let you.
Okay. I was going to ask if you had him. Good job.
The first team, the Big O, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Bill Russell, and Wilt. Second team, Magic, MJ, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, and Kareem. So, floor is yours.
This is just old heading. I mean, I knew it was him just kind of putting his friends on there and people he looked up to. When Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time, is on his second team, I think that's more respectful than leaving LeBron off, because every old head hates LeBron. Like, Kenny Smith has a 9th on his all-time team, but like everyone respects Michael Jordan for good reason. You see The Last Dance? He's amazing. He's the best player of all time, and he had him second. And behind Jerry West over him. Jerry West. I know he's the logo, man, but we're not counting your post-basketball curricular activities when you're building the championship Lakers. No. So, I mean,
he could have said like favorite 2 teams, not best.
Yeah. I mean, if you name again, I think Karl Malone's the oldest person on the squad, right? And he was from the 90s.
You mean like youngest, right?
Oh, newest.
Newest. Yeah, it would be Malone.
And yeah, I mean, it was obviously players he played with and looked up to. So I mean, it's just old heading at that point. But I do want to get to his quote, LeBron being the one to pioneer super teams. I'm not the first one to say this, but I just find it really weird that old players are because he didn't create the super team. You see the 70s Lakers, the 80s Lakers, the 80s Celtics, the 90s Bulls. I mean, God, even the 90s Utah Jazz were kind of a super team. Like, they were super teams, but the only difference was, the general manager did it. And I mean, I don't understand why LeBron gets so much hate for being the one to be like, hey, let's fight the power and do it ourselves and let's play with our friends instead. Because everyone was one of their GMs, LeBron MJ even Last Dance was like, I owe at least some of those titles to the GM, even though he said his quote was players win titles, not owners. But I don't understand why LeBron gets so much flack when, that Heatles team didn't even win the first year, Yeah,
and it's funny because I'm just looking through the team. 3 of his guys from the first team, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt, all teammates, but I think they only played a year because Elgin ended up retiring right before they won the
title, yeah.
But still, those 3 did all play on a team at one point. So, it's like, where's the
super? And then Dr. J's part of maybe the greatest team of all time, the 83 Sixers. Like, that team was insane.
Beat the Lakers. And they had 4 Hall of Famers, and at one point, 4 All-Stars in that season. Dr. J, Mo Cheeks, Moses Malone, and then was it the guard? Oh, what's his name? I gotta look it up. Andrew Toney, I think, or was it
Andrew Toney? That's the most generic name I've ever heard in my life.
No, I think it was Bobby Jones was the other
Bobby Jones
All-Star. But yeah, and yeah, like it's weird because people criticize LeBron for not being able to get over the hump, in 2009 and 2008 against like the Celtics teams, but look at his rosters he had and look at who he was going up against. And then he goes to a place where they weren't like crazy good, like, the 73-9 Warriors. He brought, Chris Bosh with him. And then people are like, oh, super team, super duper team. But
just a little Labozo support here. He was playing a super team in the Boston Celtics, and if they brought them to Cleveland, would they think of it differently? Because that's what Paul Pierce had Danny Ainge do when Danny was a good GM. He brought in KG and Ray Allen. And I think that team was better when they the prime years of the Celtics Big Three to the Heat's Big Three than the Heat's Big Three. The Celtics should have won 4 titles in a row if injuries don't happen.
Yeah, injuries and then LeBron.
So it's not LeBron's fault that Dan Gilbert couldn't get anyone besides Mo Williams to play with him. That's not LeBron's fault. You give 7 years to an organization, you're allowed to leave.
People blame players for not being able to win, but don't look at the roster and don't look at what the GM does for him. And then they leave to put themselves in a better situation, and then they get all the flack. And
very pro player pod here on THHoopers.
Yeah,
what you want?
I know,
unless you're Kevin Durant, then I don't know.
When I was younger, I was like, FKD for all that. But just going to a team with 73-9 did irk me, but I get it. Player movement. And I guess a lot of old heads don't like that. You're supposed to stay with one team and try and win, even though that's.
But then you end up like Charles Barkley and you get told by Shaq that you have no rings.
No rings. Exactly. So it's a jumble, but hey, Dr. J has his opinion and we live with it. So
also one last super team thing. Charles Barkley always condemning super teams when he ring chased with the Houston Rockets when he teamed up with Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon. It didn't work,
so he doesn't count it. But
just a lot of hypocrisy as far as old heads go.
Hypocrisy. Thank you.
Same tomato. Is that the whole report?
Halftime. That is.
All right. Well, I'm sweating up a storm here just thinking about next week's. I'm very excited for it. We're going to end it off here with a little segment on the NFL draft. I think we can mostly agree the NFL draft is a little bit more interesting than the NBA draft, but it doesn't mean we don't still cover it. So we're going to do a way too early mock draft here, mostly centered around George. I wish Josh could be here because Josh is also pretty into college basketball. But I'm going to give George the team, and he's going to tell me who he believes they need to pick. Just real quick, I've always wondered this. Do you think the NFL has a right or the NBA has a right having free agency before the draft?
So free NBA is
NBA is draft free agency, and NFL is free agency draft.
I like it the NBA's way because as a player, like you can see, where guys are going, where you'll have certain roles. Look with the NFL. Bears bring in Andy Dalton. You're our starter, QB1. Boom, go get trade up for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So and look,
I think also NFL, the young players make more of an immediate impact. NBA, it's kind of like the young guys that they're kind of. I mean, we have a few cases like Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell, but
I mean, in a sense, NBA, you can as one player you can like carry more, but like with NFL, it's kind of like a whole team thing. But I do think like the power of like quarterbacks and wide receivers kind of coming onto the scene because like nobody really talks about like a defensive guy unless they win like they're like rookie of the year. Or
well, you saw when Micah Parsons got drafted. No one gave a rat's ass. I was like, oh, that's a good pick.
Yeah, like after the top 10, any defensive guy was like, who? Oh, quarterback, wide receiver, shiny toy. Like, yeah. So I think that's where I think on that.
Well, let's get back to NBA. So you're on the clock, Houston Rockets. You have Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, Kenny Martin Jr. You have John Wall coming back. Who do you take with the first pick?
I think it's pretty simple here. I know KPJ can play like the one, but he primarily does play the two. I'm taking Cade Cunningham. 6'7", dude did it all for Oklahoma State. He can lead that offense, and him and KPJ can kind of just play off each other. I don't know if they want to have KPJ like solely being by himself, but we did see with Harden, he had Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and it didn't work out totally, but they did go deep in the playoffs. So I think having a point guard alongside KPJ could work.
And where does that put John Wall?
Oh, I forgot about him. Oh, I don't like his like future fit with the Rockets.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you we got John Wall, let's not draft Cade Cunningham. But I'm just asking, where does that put you? Because he has a pretty big contract.
Yeah. I know the contract thing's hard, and you're not going to buy him out, and finding a trade suitor is going to be hard.
Maybe play Porter at the 3?
No, you can't do that. Cade is 6'7". I don't like him at the 3. You could. Wall wouldn't, but I mean, he is older and more injury prone, and you do want to preserve him since you have that contract. You want him to play off the bench. I don't think he does that. I don't think he does that at all. I know you're paying him like heaps and bounds of money.
40 mil.
I mean, look at what the T-Wolves are doing.
Well, I'm not going to make you think too hard. I mean, it's a way too early mock draft. You did forget they had John Wall. Cade Cunningham is the number one player on most build players' big board. You get the first pick. You pick Cade Cunningham. John Wall's not ready for
I like picking the best guy available over fit.
Detroit Warriors. Pistons. You have Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes.
So listen, they brought in Mason Plumlee on a little bit of a lengthy deal, but I really love Evan Mobley out of SC. Okay. He has he kind of reminds me of Bam a little bit, just like how he plays. He's 7 foot, stretched the floor, one defensive player of the year in the Pac-12, freshman of the year. You know, got the USC to the Elite Eight, can kind of do it all on that end. Pairing him with Jeremy Grant, I mean, could you put like Plumlee at the 4? I don't think so.
No, God no.
Plumlee off the bench.
Plumlee's off the bench.
Off the bench, he did that in Denver. I mean, just Jeremy Grant, Killian Hayes, Mobley. That's a nice young core. How they develop is the question, but I would go with Mobley there.
Yeah, I was talking to Josh about this last pod. I've liked what they got with Mason Plumlee, but just like last time, if you're gonna pick best player available over fit over John Wall, then you can do it over Mason Plumlee. And he's on a lengthy deal and a big deal, but it's Detroit. They're gonna be winning for a while. So yeah, Mobley. You're on the clock with the Orlando Magic at number 3. You have really nothing. So
they don't have. I know they have. Okay, they got Fultz. They got
Isaiah. They got Jonathan Isaac.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Jalen Green. I'm gonna go with Jalen Green here.
Okay, G League guy,
a 2-guard, which I don't think they really have now. I mean, they do have Gary Harris, but don't know what his future is there. And I really like Jalen Green. He kind of has like all of the talents, but the one thing, kind of his defense is a little bit of the problem. But he will be playing alongside Jonathan Isaac, who is kind of a depoy contender if he's healthy. Mm-hmm. He's a very efficient scorer. He can pick up stuff quickly. He can kind of lead the offense if you need to, because like Fultz and what's the name, Cole Anthony kind of have concerns on that end. So I think he'd fit well into their system.
Fair enough. Now, number 4, this is where it gets interesting. This is the first time I'm going to give you the option to trade the pick. The Timberwolves are the 4th worst team in the NBA. As we know, Warriors fighting for a play-in spot. But it's a top 3 protected pick with the Wolves, so they would convey this in our theoretical mock draft to the Warriors. So do you take someone here? Do you have someone you have your eye on? Or do you want to give me a little mock trade because you have Klay Thompson coming back and Steph Curry still in his prime?
I don't have like a trade offer to do if, because I do want them to trade the pick. I want them to maximize on Steph, his prime, and, who knows what's going to happen with Klay, and I want them to be able to compete more. But I'm going to go with a pick here because I actually have a surefire pick that I would love to be in the Warriors system, and it's Jalen Suggs, the March Madness hero until they lost in the finals. Incredible athlete. I mean, consistent throughout the tournament. He was, came through on the biggest stages. He can play either guard spot. He can switch, competes at a high level. He's a great defender, playmaker, scorer. He can fit in Kerr's system. And he's a guy that can play off of Steph, can create to get Steph open shots off the dribble. And Klay could slide to the 3. The one problem with him is going to be his lateral quickness, being able to defend wings. But let's say he does come back at an okay level. I think Suggs would be nice in that system.
Okay, so what do you think the market is if they get that 4th pick and maybe like a Wiseman? Because I feel like a lot of teams are still in on Wiseman. I don't think we're the only ones that sees his potential is being wasted. I know we always give the Colin Cowherd analogy. It's like a car, a draft pick. You drop off the lot, it loses a lot of value. It's lost a lot of value. There will never be a player like James Wiseman this young that's draft valuable this low. So I feel like if they want to trade him, they will get what they want for him. What do you think? What do you think the market is for if they really want to go big? If they see a lot from Klay Thompson,
they're going to need they're going to need a forward then, because you figure they have their guards set up and Wiggins will play the 3. So you basically Draymond, who knows if he's going to come off the bench or not, but you're going to need a forward, at least a big. I don't know, his value is depreciating the more and more they hold on to him, and they didn't maximize his potential well at all. Throwing him in and out of lineups, not really knowing what to do offensively. They didn't do a lot of pick and rolls with him. Value wise, I don't probably like a borderline all-star, but I mean, you look at the guys that didn't make the all-star, like Shea and Delmar. I mean, these guys are really good. They're not an offer of Wiseman in the 4th isn't getting you the guys I just mentioned. I don't know. A Rudy Gay type guy would fit well with them, but I mean, if he's
what the hell for the 4th pick?
No, I'm not trading that. I'm just saying.
Okay.
No, I'm saying they I don't know. John Collins he's a little bit more expensive than that, I'd assume. But the Hawks have been looking.
No way. I think you're I'm stopping right. I think you're undervaluing the 4th pick in the draft in James Wiseman.
Do you think that would be enough or too much?
I think that's too much for John Collins. To get John Collins, but I think that's a lot. I did kind of catch you off guard there. Maybe I'm overvaluing it. Maybe you're undervaluing it. Who knows? But the 5th pick, to wrap us up here, would be the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're pretty familiar with who they have. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort, which their backcourt's kind of set. And then they got Moses Brown, who I know me and you are pretty big fans of. And they also have Al Horford, who can play the 4. So I'm guessing you're going to go wing here. Who would
Perfect,
you?
Because
there is Pokashevsky. I don't know.
I think Poku can play the 4 though, but this guy can also play the 4 because he is 6'8", 210. Jonathan Kuminga, also teammate of Jalen Green from the G League. Incredibly lengthy pause. He has the ability to be a high impact player on both of those ends. He can check big wings. He can switch on screens. He can improve as a scorer too, but he won't have to necessarily be the guy to mainly score on that team. And I think he just fit because, like you said, they needed a 3-and-D wing. He can be that guy.
I know we were talking about him earlier. I don't know who it was to fit with. It was maybe Minnesota or something. But yeah, I know we talked about him. He's in the G League. I was asking what was the best 3-and-D prospect, and you were talking about him. So I think OKC would be very happy to get him. That's Shea, Lou Dort, and him if he plays defense.
Moses Brown.
That's a scary defensive lineup.
And the worst thing is that's not even a dent of the picks they're going to have in the future.
Yeah,
they packed that for a surefire star.
Just talking about Oklahoma for a little bit. I mean, there's no way that they're not a title contender in at least 4 years. like they have too many picks because they're not gonna use every pick they have. Obviously, it's up to Sam Presti to package them now to get more because they have what is it 36 picks. You're not going to use all those draft. You only get 15 spots for a roster, and you already have a good head start with Lou Dort and Shea, and then we'll see what Moses Brown gives you. But yeah, I like him. I know you like him because he went to UCLA.
And they got Horford, who I don't think is going to be a part of their future plans. He played well this year. A contender will bite and take him, and he only has.
I'm wondering. He has 2 years left in his contract. 1 year and then a player option. He's looking like a buyout candidate, but we'll see as far as that goes. He'll probably find himself on a contender, but I think he'll be in the buyout market. All right. Well, thank you for humoring me with that mock draft. We'll do one a lot more closer to the actual draft, so it makes a little sense with Josh, and we'll do probably a full. Hell, maybe even full first round. Who knows if we're having fun? It's the off season. But yeah, look ahead time. Did you get your look ahead?
I did. I hope
good for you.
Hope I don't take yours, but Saturday primetime nightcap on ESPN. Nuggets Clippers. This will be for the tiebreaker, so very, very big standings implications here. Will be interesting to see if Kawhi comes back or not. But yeah, rematch from last year's playoffs. Trying to who's going to get the third or fourth seed, and we're going to be watching as Laker fans too because we're involved there. So should be a high octane matchup. I'm excited.
Yeah. So my look ahead is the Jazz and Suns. It's not on primetime because they don't care, I guess, but it's a very important game. That'll be for the first seed. League Pass 7:00 on Friday. Good for them. And then Josh's look ahead is on primetime Sunday. It's the very first game. Nets and Bucks. That is also Nets are trying to get a deadlock on that first seed, and Bucks are trying to move up. They make a last push here. I don't know if Giannis will play. If Giannis does not play, Josh is looking like he's gonna have a very unfun recap on Sunday because it'll probably be a 40-point blowout. But hey, hopefully Giannis plays. We get a good game. Anything else to add from this podcast?
Nope.
All right, well, then that's going to do it for tonight's episode. Thanks for watching or listening. If you like the show, make sure to follow us at THHoopers, Instagram, and Twitter. Say what's up. I guarantee a good response because George is back on his phone, not caught lacking. Hopefully he's here to stay. I kind of like this guy. But besides that, thanks for being an OG, and everyone take care.